If you're interested in getting started, why don't you type yes in the chat? We'll go ahead and get started. This is kind of an intermediate session on ProPresenter. I'm seeing yes from a whole lot of people. Diane, Robert, Eldon, Michael, Charles Duke. Hi, Charles. Adam Weston, John, Edward, Becky. Oh, Edward is actually Sam. Becky, Dean, Steve. I guess it's time to start then, if everyone's interested in starting. So let's get going. Okay, here we are over in ProPresenter, and I thought that I'd first talk about great ways to get text into ProPresenter a lot faster. You can absolutely type it in. So if I right click here and go to edit slide and type in, click here for a new slide, and during the last webinar I did this, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. So I could absolutely type it in like that and just go through that. But that takes a while, as you might have noticed. So another thing that I could do is I could go into text edit. Before I got on here, I found the lyrics for And Can It Be? So I could copy and paste each of these individually. So I try and use hymns because they're public domain. Charles Wesley doesn't care that I'm broadcasting this for a webinar. So I could do it like that if I wanted to. That's a little faster than typing, but let me show you an even faster way to do this. So File, import text from clipboard, which I've already copied. So I could do that. And let's see here. And so delimiters, I could do line break or I could do paragraph break. Let me do paragraph break. And 2 delimiters per slide. I think I'm actually going to do 1. I guess I could, I've got a couple of options, but, and then let's put that in as a hymn. Let's go for a different template just to show what that's like. And so here we are, and I'm importing from text that I had copied onto clipboard. Change the template here. Let's maybe full page lyric in Forest, and let's bring it into the playlist. So I can import that, and that imports that one slide. You'll see it's very long. Still would be better if I imported all the text, and so let's do that. Let's import, file, and by the way, this is what I think you should do with sermon notes if you can. So let's go to, that's on the desktop is where I saved it, right here. So, and same, paragraph break, 1 delimiter. Adam, we can talk about how to do bullet points here in just a second. Again, hymns, selected playlist. I'm going to import this one. And now we see that I have all the slides. I mean, they're way long, but I have them. So let me get rid of this one. Remove from playlist. Okay, so I've got that one, and I got the whole song in really well. Another thing that you can do is search here. I wouldn't do this on Wednesday, Sunday, or Saturday, but you could click include song select results in search and get it from song select if you have a song select account. Um, but I'd really encourage everyone to uncheck that unless you need it, because that's part of the issue of why Wednesdays, Sundays, and Saturdays song select doesn't seem as responsive as it should be, because in Pro6, every time you do a search of the library, it also does a search of song select. So you can imagine you don't even need a new song, you're pinging their server. And hundreds of other churches are doing the same thing. So the ones that actually need song select are running into a problem. So anyway, back here to this, wrong one. Back here to this one, which is right here. And you can see that that's in. Again, hymns tend to have long stanzas. Uh, and so that can be a bit of a problem. So what you would want to do is you'd want to break this up a bit. At my church, we tend to use 2 lines. So you could see how if I did right edit slide, and if you're thinking, I wouldn't go into edit slide because of, what's on my shirt here, then you're right. But I just wanted to show that you could absolutely select it, Command X or Control X on Windows, add a new slide, and then paste it in there. Oh, double click to edit. Paste it in there and repeat. So that's a way to do it, but it's not the fastest way. The fastest way is if we go into, I think it's View Actions, View and Reflow Editor. Control R will take you there. And then what you want to do, this is, if you don't know about this, I'm going to change your life right here. So you click on where you want the next slide to be, and you remember my t-shirt, Option Enter. And that is on a Mac, there is a PC version. So and now really quickly, just by going down, I have Option Enter. Bam, Option Enter. I showed this to a producer at my church, and she goes, "Wow, that's going to change my life." That's why the t-shirt says Option Enter. It will change your life, because it will. If you were doing this the cut and paste way, that really saves you a bunch of time, and it just changed Sheila's life. You're welcome, Sheila. So while I'm thinking about it, the other t-shirt that I've made for ProPresenter keyboard shortcuts, I want you to watch right here in the middle of the screen. I'm going to move the mouse off. That happens sometimes. You lose your mouse. Where is it? I don't know. It's on one of these screens. Option M puts it right back in the middle. See, right there. One more time, move it off to the side, Option M, and it's back in the middle. Another little tip to save your time when you've lost your mouse, that's the way to do it. So we saw the way that it used to be, and now it's like this. So let's say that when you brought it in, you chose the wrong template or you changed your mind. Do Command A or Control A on a PC. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up to this template box, and let's change that. Let's say that we want 16:9 lower thirds. No, I don't like that one. Let's say we want this full slide lyric instead. Now I click on that, and it has just changed all of those to that. So quite frankly, I think that this is actually a little small. So let's go into Edit Slide, right click, Edit Slide. Let's make this a little bit bigger so it's a little more legible. And actually, let's, instead of Avener, I think I've got CMG Sans here from our friends at Church Motion Graphics. And so I'm going to change that to CMG Sans and bump that up to, let's say, 68. And we'll close that. Now that looks a lot better, much more legible. So I'm going to right click that and let's see, template, save selected slides as template group. Let's call that blue with big text. We could call it whatever we wanted, but that's a good way to do it. Now I'm going to go back in, Command A to select them all, right click, template, this is another way to do it, blue with big text, select template 1, and bammo, those are all in. You'll notice that these didn't change. That's because it's got so much text it can't fit it all. So I would have finished doing that in the reflow editor and that would have fixed it. But now you can see how that's, I might need to tweak this, but if I'm hit 5 minutes before church starts with a new song, that's the way I'm going to do it, and that's going to solve my problem. It's just going to bring it in quickly and easily. You can use all those same tricks for doing sermon notes, by the way. So you can use the reflow editor for sermon notes. You can have a template that it all follows, etc., etc. So that's a way to do that. Let me show you how, if I were you and my pastor said, we need to do sermon notes, and the pastor tried to be helpful by giving you a Word document, or tried to be helpful by making an ugly PowerPoint, which it's a personal pet peeve of mine when pastors insist on doing the formatting unless they've got a background in design, which most don't. Most just think they do. So PowerPoint, I can walk into a room and tell if they're using PowerPoint. It's just, it looks like something Bill Gates would use. Nothing against him personally. It's just not the best way to do it. We've got ProPresenter, let's use it. So let me show you the things that I would have my pastor do. Instead of trying to be helpful by making a PowerPoint for me, I would instead say, hey, let me save you some time, which will save me some time. So it's a win-win. You're helping me more by saving yourself some time. Just copy and paste your sermon notes into a text document. So let's say that we want to do John 3:16. Might help if I could type. There we go. I absolutely have been typing since 1991. I have, I swear it. Then let's say that there's a sermon point. God loves and therefore gives. And let's say we have a bulleted list, which is 3 things, and it's proof of God's love. So you could do numbers, but let's say I wanted to do bullets. Just instead of doing a bullet, just do a hyphen and know that that is what's going to be a bullet. And let's see here. God gave his son He died for us. And one more. Grace means we don't earn his love. Okay, so let's say that. Let's say also that the pastor wanted a clip from a video. So let's say I'm going to put the left square bracket there, and let's call that, let's see here, the Passion 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 15 seconds. I'm just making this up, by the way, to 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 35 seconds. And let's say that there's a picture here. Jesus underscore love dot jpg, and let's put in another one. So if my pastor saves that as a text document, let's do that real quick. Hi to anyone else who's just joined us. Let's call that, I normally do year first, 19 12 12 sermon, and let's save that to the desktop. Now I go file, import file, Command Shift I will do that on a Mac. Click on it, bring it in. Let's give it the category sermon, just so those are easier to find. Again, paragraph break, 1 delimiter per slide. Resolution that you're outputting. Let's change this to the blue with big text that we just created. Bring that into the selected playlist and import. And you can see that you can copy and paste that in by going into the Bible. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. God loves, therefore gives. And now we have this. I'll show you how to fix that real quick. So let's see who had that. So quick, we'll edit slide. Right click, text reveal, bulleted list. And change that to that, and then you just get rid of this. Okay, and let's make that left justified. Okay, so now God loves, therefore he gives, proof of God's love. He gave his son, he died for us. Grace means we don't have to earn his love. So you see how that came in. Now this, we could get that clip pasted in here, and let's just say, let me open up my video image bin. Right there, looked right past it. Okay, let's just say that this JPEG is Actually, I'm just going to put that in there. And by accident, that was a background. Let's change that to foreground. Actually, let's instead convert media edit slide, because this has a background. I think that's messed with things just a bit. Put that under that. So that's clearly not Jesus's love, but that's, you could imagine that you had that as a picture, and you could do the same thing with a video. This is clearly not a video from the Passion, but you could do that. Let's go in. Actually, an easier way to do that would be just to put it in between and delete that. And so now you have that all in. You didn't type a thing. And you've got the verse citation, which you can look up in the Bible app, which I believe is Control B. So now I can go to John 3:16. Okay, and let's change that template to the one we were using before, blue with big text, and add that into the current document. Close that out, and now I just need to drag that, delete that, and I'm done with the sermon notes. So that's a way to bring that in a little more quickly. If it turns out that you need to edit this, make it shorter, you could do that in Reflow Editor, and you're good to go with the sermon notes. One thing I wanted to show you the difference between backgrounds and foregrounds while I'm here. Everyone's still with me? Type yes or raise your hand if you're still there. I don't want to talk above anyone's heads. Okay, raised hands. I'm seeing a lot of raised hands. A few yeses. Great. I never want to talk above anyone's head, and I never want to talk down to anyone, and sometimes that's kind of hard. So forgive me if I've done either, and if you have any questions, and we'll go on from there. We're about a half an hour in. So difference between foregrounds and backgrounds. This is a foreground video, so it can't have any text. So see how we've got this here. The minute I go here, that replaces it. And if I click on this with the background, then it has replaced the blue as a background. So you can only have on the media layer, which imagine that backgrounds and foreground videos live on the same layer. It's just if it's a foreground, it gets rid of anything on the slides layer. They can't coexist. But if, excuse me, trying to fight off the flu for a few weeks here. So if it's the case that you have a foreground video, it can't coexist with the slides layer. A background video can coexist with the slides layer. this, if you go, since it's a foreground video, if you use the go to next timer, where are you? Go to next timer, right there. So with the foreground video, the duration is how long after the last frame before it auto advances. So let's set that to 0. This is a 17-second video clip, so I expect when this over here reaches 0 that it should auto advance to this slide right here. 2, 1, 0. See, auto advances. But if we did the exact same thing on a background, so let's go back to the go to next timer, set that for 0 seconds. The second we do that, here, let me put another slide so that it's obvious. So the second we do that, it skips right over, because foregrounds and slides behave differently than backgrounds. So if we go into go to next timer here and change that to 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it goes. So when you have, let's say you have a pre-service loop and it's got a bunch of foreground graphics in it, and then it has a foreground video in it. Remember, a foreground video, in general, you're going to want that go to next timer to be 0 unless you want it to stick on that last frame for a certain duration. So I can demonstrate that here by going into right click, go to the next timer. Let's put it on 5 seconds, and I'm going to skip ahead here. 3, 2, 1. It should stop. Hold on. Oh, it's set to loop. Silly me. So after that time, it did go ahead. It didn't actually stop because that particular video was set to loop. My fault. Which you can change by going into right click, media properties, and see the behavior set to loop. Let's set it to stop. Since it's a foreground video, that's generally going to be what you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I just got a package, and so that moves ahead. So there we go. That is just some quick time-saving things for you. I do want to talk about something else that will save you some time. While I'm doing this, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in here in the chat, and I'll answer them here in just a second. Let's first, so this is where I got Ann Canopy that I showed you a little bit earlier. 1230 Media, this is a company owned by a friend of mine. He really views it as a ministry. He has a background in graphic design and video production for the church. And they have, and I'm just offering this to you just because I worked out a deal with them. I don't get any money from this. It's just something I find helpful. They've got mini videos, mini movies, series in a box, service packs, song videos that you can get either individually, 15 bucks for this one, 12 bucks for this one, or you can go unlimited. But you see, $49 a month, we're not going to do $49 a month. I've worked out a deal with them now until Christmas where we can get that for half off. So let me show you here. If you go to this address, which I'm going to type in tdm.fyi/CTU Christmas. Is that it? tdm.fyi/CTU. Well, darn. Okay, so for some reason it just did the search. That will take you to this website, which this is a landing page. It tells you all about my product, Church Tech U, which has all kinds of courses in it, like the one that I have here. And I've also included this. This is the graphic for their unlimited service, where you can get it for $24.50 a month instead of $49 a month. And you just go like you're going to buy it and then put in the coupon code Go Christmas, and that'll save you half. And if you like my training, these are some of the courses that are included. The Pro Presenter Hacks, Tips and Tricks course. I'm going to talk more about that next week when I do another one of these webinars, if I can find the time. I've got a lot of freelancing engagements. Some of that, and that's normally $49 a month, but I'm taking $25 off of that, so that's $24.97. So you could get both for the cost of one if you wanted to. So I just wanted to offer that to anyone that's interested. You can save even more on my Church Tech training with the yearly plan for one campus, or if you're a multi-site church, you can do the yearly plan for all of your campuses. So if you're Life Church, $497 a year. If you've got 3 campuses, $497 a year. And that enables you to train new volunteers without you having to be there. That's something really cool. Plus, you can pick up tips and tricks like the ones that I've shared in this webinar. If your church requires a purchase order, instead, you can just click Pay with the PO, send me an email. That's what that does, is it brings up your email client, which mine is on another screen, so it didn't bring it up. And then you just tell me which plan you want. I'll send you an invoice, and then you can send that to the correct person so that they can do a check to me. 100% risk-free guarantee. So after the first month, if you say, Paul, not for me, I'll give you your money back. No big deal there. So if that's something that you find interesting, by all means, go do that. I wanted to show you just some of the courses. So these are all included in addition to the ones that I showed you. So Pro Presenter for live streaming, I hadn't put on that sales page yet, but it's in here. This is the Pro Presenter creation course, and I'm going to answer questions in just a second. And Robert, I see yours, and Gary, I see yours as well. So we'll answer those in just a second. So some stuff that I covered in this webinar that's also in here: working with text, working with video. Didn't touch the difference between audio effects and tracks. It does matter which is which. Creating and scheduling pre-service loops, automatically starting countdowns with the scheduler, I didn't cover. That's a cool little trick. It's a little convoluted, but it's once you get it, oh, that's how you do it. Um, Using non-printing guidelines when you're setting up slides, that's a cool little thing. Making photo slideshows, that's a little hack that I've determined. And every time I do it, someone thinks that I spent hours and hours making a photo slideshow when I've taken literally minutes to do it. So that's a cool thing. The Q palette, maybe we'll go over that in a minute if we have some time. So that's the stuff in there. And I also have the Pro Presenter for Pastors and Teachers course. And in this, I give a tour of the Pro Presenter interface. I answer common Pro Presenter and presentation questions. And then I address objections that your pastor is likely to have when you say, hey, I want you to build in Pro Presenter. I don't have the right computer. Or how to create a presentation outside of Pro Presenter, which is what I was doing when I showed you the type in into the text document way of doing it. Making your presentation in Pro Presenter itself, bulleted list reveals and fill in the blanks. A lot of pastors like those. I show how to do that. Working with scripture and Bibles, features you should be using but probably aren't, and design mistakes to avoid. And as part of this, I also talk a little heart to heart with your pastor, because I've got an MDiv. I've never been a pastor, but it's I have been to seminary and I have an MDiv, so I talk a little bit about gifts, spiritual gifts, and why the pastor really should let the tech people do it as opposed to doing some stuff themselves. So that's all included along with the other courses that I showed you. And this is my Church Tech U private Facebook group. It's not available to anyone that's not a part of this, and it's a much smaller venue. I think it's great because you can get answers directly from me. You can do that in the Pro Presenter users group, but we're kind of a victim of our own success over there. We've got so many people that a lot of times you'll ask a question and you'll get 20 wrong answers and only one right one. And so which do you know is right? If I haven't answered it yet, then you don't know. But this is because churches are paying me. This is part of my top priority. So as soon as I get a question like this one that I got from James Clendenan, who is actually a new Church Tech U member, and Eric Prucha, he chimed in as well. So we have a much tighter community over here. So all that's available if you go to the link that I gave you earlier, tdm.fyi/CTU Christmas. You can get all that, and you can also use that code whether you go with Church Tech U or not. Use that code and you can get all this great media. It's an all-you-can-eat kind of plan. They really lowered the price this much in the hopes that you would sign up and then just keep going for at least a year to justify it, as opposed to signing up for a month and downloading everything. Remember, this puts food on the table for these people. So help them out by subscribing and staying for a year and using all these resources. They add new ones every month. So it's likely that around Easter, they're going to have a lot of new Easter resources too. So stuff for you to keep in mind. So let's get back over here and go to the questions. So let me scroll back in here. Adam, let's just call you Batman since your name is Adam West. I bet you've never heard that joke before. I hope that that idea for the bulleted list was helpful to you. Gary, when you bring up go to next timer, what keystrokes are you using to bring up the list for the go to next timer? So right click, scroll down, go to next timer, and then duration, I just click on that and type in the number. So 5 or 15 or delete, backspace, whatever, 7, and then click on done. So not really a lot of keystrokes, just right click and go from there. So is the latest Mac OS compatible with ProPresenter 6? Yes. Earlier this week, I think it was Tuesday, Renewed Vision announced that Catalina is compatible with the latest version of ProPresenter 6. So I haven't updated yet. I need to, and I need to do my annual what happens when you update too early. But there's some other stuff that I'm waiting on for it to be reliable with. So I use the Q palette for every service. Wish there was a ribbon button for it. Yeah, I think you're right. If we go into, I think it's actions. Where is it? Window. I know it's up here somewhere. Format, actions. Might be skipping right past it. Customize toolbar, right there under view. So if I do that, then I can drag things in or out, and space puts a space between things. Flexible space depends on how much stuff there. So if I wanted to put the messages timers right there, you'll see that that whole space moves over. If it was a flexible space, it would squish. So, and I believe you're right that there is no Q palette button here. So that's right. So in general, you're going to right click, add Q palette, and then I guess you could keep that up all the time or just drag it down to the corner, just bring it up once and then drag and drop, drag and drop, drag it and drop for what you want on there for the Q palette. So if you wanted to have a clear audio cue, you could do that. Start a timer, put that one there. So you can select which timer. And if you wanted to start the timer, stop the timer, reset the timer, or reset and start timer. Add in a mask, do social media, stage display. This is a cool one. Let's grab that on that. And now I can change the layout of the stage display, or I could suppress slides on output. When you do that, so we click on that one, it suppressed the slide on output, leaving it the way that it was. But then as I advance that, you'll notice it doesn't change here. But if I go, I think it's Command 3. Yeah. If I go here, you'll notice that the stage display does in fact change. And then if I wanted to add another one, let's say go to add another stage display queue here and enable that. This is something great that they added in Pro6. You used to be able to do this, but you would have to remember to do that, which sometimes I would forget to do things. So you do that one, it suppresses it, and you do this one, and you'll notice that this means the output is suppressed. So the stage display is the only thing that's working. This one, it goes away, so that means that the regular output is working. So Command 3, which it doesn't immediately switch to the regular output. You have to select something for it to switch to that. So that's a cool little feature in ProPresenter as well. So we've been going right at an hour, just a little shy of an hour. I guess I actually got started a little bit afterwards. But if you have more questions, by all means, ask them. You might have noticed that my wife, of course, asked if I was done yet. Should have told her that these are about an hour. So she wants me to give a different cold medicine to my 13-year-old. So since I work at home, and boy, do I need to clean up my office, I get that fun task of giving the appropriate medicine to the appropriate kid. So there's that. Hopefully she will go back to school tomorrow. It's driving her crazy to be home. So anyone else have any more questions? Anything that you want to know about? Looks like we've got a new message. John is thanking me. Well, you're certainly welcome, John. Thanks for showing up. I've really enjoyed these, having the level of interaction that I've had with you all these last couple of weeks. I don't know if you got to be here last Thursday when I did one, but I am planning a ProPresenter advanced one. So that's going to be fun. I do have my Stream Deck programmed. It is doing what I want it to do mostly. There's some variables I haven't knocked out how to do. The problem that I'm running into right now is, you'll see I've got it, but it's not plugged in because I've run out of USB ports. So I guess I'm not currently using my SD card one. So let's see what happens when I plug it in, and I'll give you a preview of what I'm doing. I'll try and do that next week. Let's see here. Go into companion. Configure Stream Deck, because I'm using both Stream Deck and Companion. Okay, so you see that? I have actually a button here in that brings up my Stream Deck. I replaced what page I was on with that. So I've got a ProPresenter previous slide. And actually, let me do that. So previous slide, next slide, clear all. Then I can start the clock. Let's, I think it's Control M brings up messages. Yes, it does. So show message. So I can stop the clock. Oh, let's start. Stop. Yeah, it's not wanting to focus, but restart. So hold on, let me reconnect there and make sure that that's all good. But that is the Stream Deck. I'll talk more about that next week if you want. I just need to make sure that I've got some time because I am freelancing during the day. And that's actually my birthday. I'm going to be 46, so I look forward to that. Rick, they don't have to be specific to ProPresenter. So let's see. Tim Bowers, been handling my church's media for a year and a half now. You've been a tremendous help throughout. Well, thanks. Are you available for helping to troubleshoot at a later time to help figure out why we have issues with our output? I don't want to take up the group's time for that. Yeah, I think so. Becky, uh, send me a message and we'll talk about that later. So here's my email, Paul at Trinity Digital Media.com. And well, thanks, Sheila, for the happy birthday. Rick, they don't have to be questions specific to ProPresenter. So if you want to ask them, feel free to go ahead. Okay, yeah, ask about your projectors. So, by the way, I can also select layout of the stage display with this while I'm waiting on Rick's question. So let's do Command 3. So stage display layout. So I'm hitting that and it's going between different layouts. And I also have a button to toggle 2 of the keys on my Blackmagic ATEM Television Studio HD. So that's all on that page. And speaking of the ATEM Television Studio HD, okay, control buttons for that. All the auxes. And then this is something that I've been working on since I can stack commands. I'm going to have it change ProPresenter and change the ATEM at the same time to different sources and change the auxes and all kinds of fun stuff. So hopefully once I get that done, I'll be able to do my tutorials live, so I won't have to do any editing. So Robert says, is the Pro Remote the only way to control the presentation from the front? No, not at all. You can use a regular presentation remote as long as the presentation remote sends left and right arrows as opposed to up and down arrows. Some of them do up and down. I'm trying to remember the name of the one. I've got a tutorial where I tested out a couple of different ones. I was freelancing at a hotel that had them, so I tested them out with ProPresenter and they both worked. So I think Logitech, I think Logitech makes a remote that's a presentation remote that works fine, and then there was another one. But the one I really recommend is the DSAN remote cue. That thing is so expensive. They're like 400 bucks a pop. So expensive. But the range on them is killer. In fact, the range is so good that most of the problem I've had with those remotes were when I had two of them in somewhat close hotel conference rooms, and one would control the other. But that's okay because they're assignable, so you can fix that really easily with diff switches. But um, yeah, the Logitech R800 I've used, and it works perfectly fine. Becky, the box is called a Stream Deck. Actually says it here, but I guess my thing is kind of small, so you might not be able to read it. And it comes with software called Stream Deck software, but there's an open source project called Companion that enables you to control ProPresenter without even ProPresenter being in the foreground and do some stuff that's like multiple clicks, because basically it emulates the ProPresenter remote um, software. So that's something else. I'm trying to control the projectors from our video room, Rick says. Do I need an IR repeater? If so, do I need to run a Cat 5 or 6 cable? Yes and yes. So here, I actually used to work in a whole house audio video company. So I have, yep. This is an IR receiver. They make them that look differently, but it's got 4 wires that you just splice into, just run a Cat 5, Cat 6, etc. Because it doesn't matter, it's just using the wires as wires. Don't run it through a switch. You don't want to do that. You want to run it directly to your projectors. And so in this case, I happen to know that this is a status. Yellow is status, so you don't need that. Black is ground. Red is voltage, so you want to hook that up to a 12 volt, like a wall wart kind of thing. And then send this, which is IR out, and ground, send those to your projectors. And there are little IR LEDs that you can get that you basically, on the other end, you connect the IR connection and the ground connection on the other end to the IR LED, and you can do that. They also make little distribution blocks, so if you have multiple projectors, you can do that. And that's a good, easy way to control projectors from a good long way. So Dean Carter asks, what was the brand remote that you recommended? DSAN. D apostrophe S-A-N. Oops, I'm on the wrong screen. D apostrophe S-A-N. They're chunky looking things, like, they're not sleek. But what you might notice is if you watch Willow Creek when they do the Global Leadership Summit, anytime someone's controlling slides, they'll have a remote. If you watch Apple when they do their keynote, they have the same remote. That's because it's a DSAN. They're about 400 bucks a pop for the entry level one, which is all you need, but they work. And the only time they don't work is either if you have more than one within 1,500 feet of each other and they're set to the same frequency. That's the number one cause. The number two is the battery dies. But the battery lasts long enough that I worked a freelance gig one time, and the guy couldn't remember the last time he changed the remote, and that's when it quit working. So I mean, there's a reason that Apple has the Apple remote, and yet they don't use the Apple remote in their keynotes. They use a DSAN remote. That just tells you something. So that's what I would recommend if you've got the budget for it. If not, the Logitech R800 is a fine remote, works perfectly fine for shorter distances. But I know our pastor likes to change some of the slides, not all of them, mind you, just some. And so we got one of those DSAN remotes, and we didn't want to spend the money, started with a Logitech, and it just would not get back to the video booth, which is actually an adjoining room. Wouldn't get there. Changed to the DSAN, hasn't had a problem since. So that's why I recommend that one. It's expensive, but boy, does it work. So there's that. If anyone has any more questions, I'll answer them for a couple more minutes. Oops, just dropped my mic. Just got a Shure SLX, which I'm very happy with. My old one was about the cheapest wireless Audio Technica you could get, and man, that sucker. I shouldn't have gotten the cheapest one. So, what task is best to use to improve ProPresenter 6 performance and response during presentation as it relates to the media library, playlist, and hot link files for media? Okay, if you're talking about ProPresenter performance, the most common cause of performance issues that I've seen personally is when media is too big. So if you've got an 800 by 600 resolution projector and you're sending 1080p, ProPresenter doesn't like that. Even more common around summer mission trip and VBS time, you'll bring in a bunch of pictures from someone who's taken pictures, and you'll put them in and you'll do a slideshow, and that'll slow it down because those pictures were set to where you can print them, which is a much higher resolution than your 1080p or whatever your screens are. So I would check that first. I'd get rid of all old media and that you're never going to use again, right? Back it up, of course, but get rid of old media, and any media that you're going to use, make sure that that is optimized for the output resolution that you're sending. So those are the first things that I do. Hot folders should be fine most of the time. Absolutely don't put them on the network, and absolutely don't put them in a place where it's automatically uploaded to iCloud, like say the desktop or the documents folder. Don't put them there, because that'll cause problems as well. So those are the things that I would check first for you, Gary. Any other questions? It's 1:14 here in the Eastern time zone. I think some of you in the Pacific time zone probably need to go to work if you're not there already. Some of you need to get back from lunch, things like that. I don't want to make your bosses mad at you, but hopefully that's something that you can use. And I hope that some of you will just join me in Church Tech U, because I do these things monthly whenever I can. I had a busy season in the past, but I do these monthly for Church Tech U members, and that's a smaller crowd that's able to just really engage and answer questions, and they have access to all the tutorials that I release. I've curated them, gotten rid of all the fluff and everything, and so you can start a tutorial on a subject and in 2 or 3 minutes have your answer, and pick and choose as you wish, and set new volunteers free on that stuff. Let them learn all they can, and then you answer 2 or 3 questions and they're trained. So I think that's a really great thing. And I've got dozens of churches that are doing it already. So I'd love for your church to be a part of it too. So thanks, Sam. Uh, thanks for the happy birthday wishes, and thank you for the blessings. I'm just, quite frankly, I can't believe that I get to do this. It's just great. I know me. I know I don't deserve it. It's just more proof of God's grace. So thanks a lot, and I hope that I've helped you. And next week, I'm going to dive into more advanced topics. So we'll go from there. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com. And remember, that sale goes until Christmas. I want you to have the best Christmas ever. So please join so that I can help you even more intensely. And until then, go out and change eternity. So